Baker and Odell and Baker. They've never quite been on the same page, so is it time for Cleveland to consider trading OBJ? Another day, another chapter in the Ben Simmons saga. Guess who finally showed up in Philly? And Lamar Jackson with an absolute performance for the ages on the biggest stage Monday night. Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe alongside Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, Kevin Wildes. Nick, did Lamar finally prove that he could win with his arm last night?
It was the finest game of Lamar Jackson's career. Unfortunately, I'm guessing the biggest Lamar Jackson critics went to bed early, so they didn't see it. They're waking up this morning, they're like, wait, what happened? Yeah, you should watch that. That was a hell of a performance by Lamar last night.
It was a late one last night, but we have to start this morning with news out of the NFL. Yesterday, head coach Jon Gruden resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders after a number of his emails were leaked to the public. Emails which included racist, misogynistic, and homophobic language over a 7-year period between 2011 and 2018. About everyone from team owners to Roger Goodell. Gruden steps down just 4 years into his 10-year, $100 million deal. Yesterday, he issued this statement. I have resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you to all the players, coaches, staff, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone. Raiders assistant Rich Bisaccia has taken over as the interim coach for now. But Chris Broussard, in a league that's trying to move forward, be more inclusive, what do you make of all this by Jon Gruden?
Well, obviously, he had to go, Jenna. I mean, he insulted a number of people groups that are represented not only within the league, but within the Las Vegas Raiders organization. And while I think every single team would have fired or led Gruden to resign under duress, however you want to phrase it, after these emails surfaced, it can't be lost on people that the Oakland Raiders or the Raiders organization, Oakland, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, they've arguably been the NFL's model franchise for diversity, arguably. And that started under Al Davis, the late owner, whose son Mark now runs the team and obviously hired Jon Gruden a few years ago. But the Raiders were the first NFL team in the modern era to hire a black coach in Art Shell. They were the first team to hire a Hispanic coach in Tom Flores. They were the first team to have a female executive in former CEO Amy Trask. And before this season, their defensive end, Carl Nassib, came out as gay and became the first openly gay player to play in a regular season NFL game. So with all of that, I mean, Jon Gruden was obviously going against all that Al Davis and this franchise had stood for in terms of diversity and inclusion, not to mention the league. I mean, you have messages of stop hate and inspire change on the back of players' helmets, in the end zones, in racism, things like that. And to have a head coach with a plethora of emails going against all of that was just untenable. I think he would have, or at least in the short term, he would have, Nick, survived the first email about DeMaurice Smith, the executive director of the Players Association. But that may have been short term, because it would have depended on how the players responded to him, because they were listless in that game against Chicago the other night. But long term, after these emails surfaced, there's no way he was going to last.
Gruden had a tiny bit, and it was tiny, but a tiny bit of wiggle room around the DeMaurice Smith email. And that wiggle room is he's just an idiot. It was the only reason Jon Gruden deserved any benefit of the doubt was, is he really dumb enough to not know that calling a UVA grad, established lawyer, who happens to be a black man, dumb, and comment on the size of his lips wasn't racist. And the only possible out there is I'm literally just a stupid, stupid man. And I'm unaware of all of American history, contemporary tropes, and racism. And it's like, all right, is he that dumb? Maybe, I guess, if the players and guys that have worked with him are going to defend him. I haven't been around Gruden. I'll give you the 1% chance you didn't know exactly what commenting on the size of DeMaurice Smith's lips actually means. But there is no wiggle room here. He used the most offensive slur imaginable for gay people and directed it seemingly haphazardly at anyone and everyone who he thought wasn't acting man enough or tough enough. He called gay players queers. And to go back to the stupid part, he's out here sending naked pictures of women to other grown adults on their work emails. Where you do that at? And I understand that we have done this weird thing for some people where anything that happened in the past, some people want to act like was a youthful indiscretion. These emails started when Jon Gruden was 48 years old, and they went up until 2018. Wilds, listen, I am not a huge fan of the thing that some folks do, which is the moment a player gets drafted into the league. It's like, hey, here's a tweet from when he was 13 years old. I'm like, okay, that's a little unfair. Right. Even like, he's a kid, he's an idiot. But this is Jon Gruden as a grown man, having worked in the NFL, still working with the NFL, sending naked pictures of cheerleaders, using horrible language about any and every group that he's not a part of, and doing it amongst others. And by the way, Bruce Allen and the other people CC'd on these emails, we're not going to talk about them today because they're not Jon Gruden and the head coach of the Raiders, but they look damn near as bad. Because I guarantee you that, Wilds, and I'll throw it to you, that if someone sent you an email using that type of language, you have a very terse response and then say, remove me from this chain, please. You don't guffaw and laugh along with it. So this was a no-brainer for the Raiders, and I'm shocked Gruden didn't resign Sunday night because he knew these were coming. He knew they were out there and that it was going to continually be dripped until he finally quit or got fired.
Yeah, so he coached on Sunday night, and after the game, which Broussard mentioned was a listless performance, the players had to answer, hey, why'd you guys play so badly? And Josh Jacobs said, oh, there's nothing to do with it, and Perryman said he wanted to focus on football, and Yannick Ngakoue said, oh, I have no comment. So here's what that made me think, Broussard, and I'll throw it to you. The NFL is a world-class organization with world-class players, and they deserve world-class leadership. And when I thought about these players, I said, you know what? The average length of an NFL career is 3 years. So every guy playing 4 years, there's another guy playing 2. Every guy playing 5 years, there's another guy playing 1 year. If you deserve a coach that is 100% focused on your success and you following your dreams, because your career might end that Sunday. That's what you deserve as a player. I know there's a lot of conversation about what Jon Gruden deserves. You deserve exemplary leadership. There's only 32 jobs in the world. You could be the 33rd best head coach in the world and basically not have a job. So these players deserve better. It was an untenable situation. It's smart to resign from Jon Gruden.
Well, you deserve better. Let's face it, and I'll make this point quickly because it's not the scope of this conversation, but Jon Gruden, his last 9 years as an NFL head coach, not including this season, he made the playoffs twice.
Not good.
So beyond all of this madness, we can question how good of a coach Jon Gruden really was. This is the fourth season with the Raiders, and they had yet to have a winning record, and obviously they seem to be trending downward before he resigned. But one of the ironic parts of this whole conversation and scenario is that Jon Gruden's explanation for the DeMaurice Smith emails, that he uses the term rubber lips to describe people that are lying. Like when I first heard Gruden say that, I immediately Googled rubber lips to see is this a colloquialism or is this a term that people use to describe liars? And I couldn't find it. I could not find that description of it. So ironically, Jon Gruden, to use his term, was using rubber lips when he defended himself against the DeMaurice Smith emails. And this is a guy, and obviously lip size, you know, a lot of African Americans have full lips and things like that. He's been around African Americans for how long? Decades, right? He's been a football coach. He's been a football coach and working with African Americans. So for him to act like he didn't understand that that is a physical feature common to many African Americans is ludicrous as well, and speaks to how, again, he was talking with, to use his term, Nick, rubber lips.
Yeah, well, well put. And I mean, there are no redeemable outs here for Gruden. And I want to throw this to Jenna in a moment for a particular reason. But first, I want to say one other thing to the audience. Be careful today on who you allow to construct this narrative. Because there is a large segment of the population and the media who will bend over backwards to find any and every possible explanation or defense of past acts of bigotry and will be very minorly, if at all, outraged by it, but absolutely get enraged by people facing any type of consequences for that bigotry. There is the racism and misogyny and homophobia we can deal with. But folks having to answer for it, that's them getting canceled. That's woke culture run amok. That train is never late, and it's coming down the tracks. And so be cautious of that. And then to Jenna, and I don't mean, Jenna, to put you on the spot here, but we had an interesting moment on the show a few days ago where you were showing a lighthearted clip of you getting doused in the locker room after the Mets won a playoff series or a game or something. And I jumped up and I said, it bothered me a bit because it felt a little bit like you were being singled out because you're a woman in the locker room. You obviously, before you were on this show, you were in a lot of locker rooms. And there's a couple groups that were attacked by Jon Gruden, kind of by seemingly an old boys club. It's a bunch of rich white guys in sports just, saying what's actually on their mind, not thinking it's going to come out. And I just got to feel like, for you, whenever something like this happens, no matter where we're at, it's like, it's still like a reminder that for some of the biggest power brokers, you're not supposed to be included. And it's just, I almost cursed. It's crummy. It's worse than crummy, but I think you know the word I was going to say. And and so I wanted to give you the floor here, but that's one of the things I thought about when I read the New York Times story.
No, you're right. The sad part is that it still exists, that behavior like this behind closed doors, seemingly hidden by emails that you think are never going to surface, still exists, that people put in positions where they're supposed to be leaders and set examples for young kids, 18, 19, 20, 21, coming into the league. I mean, that is an example that is being set. It is indefensible. It is sad. It is just hopefully, obviously, a small part of what we see in the league. And thankfully, there are consequences. Once again, Jon Gruden stepping down as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders after these incredibly disturbing emails surfaced. His assistant coach, Rich Bisaccia, will step in the interim. All right, we're going to have so much more on this still to come on the program, but we'll take a turn, get back to some actual football on the field. Head to Cleveland now because Odell and Baker, these two somehow, someway still not on the same page. Is it time for Cleveland to consider trading their star receiver? We'll ask these guys next. First things first on a Tuesday morning. Hey, what's going on with Odell Beckham Jr.? Seriously, what is going on? Finally healthy, and yet another underwhelming subpar game Sunday from the Browns receiver. Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio thinks OBJ could be on the move via trade awfully soon. He wrote this: if there's a taker for the balance of his $14.5 million salary, the Browns would be crazy not to consider making a move. They don't need him. Someone else might think they do, and Beckham might be quietly pining for a chance to go to a place where he can do more than be an overpaid decoy For the Browns, anything they would get for Beckham would be more than what they are currently getting from him now. Wow. Can't believe we're here, but Chris Broussard, you in or out on the Browns trading Odell Beckham?
I'm in on this, Jenna. Now, it's not urgent. It's not like if they can't trade him or don't trade him, he's going to derail their season. But if you could find a taker, as Florio pointed out, to get his $14.5 million this year, and the next 2 years, he's got a $15 million cap hit each of those seasons, then sure, I'd trade him. And this is not a knock against OBJ. But the fact is that he and Baker Mayfield just cannot get on the same page, or have not been on the same page. You see there, the numbers don't lie. Baker Mayfield's been much better without OBJ. Last year, OBJ only played about 7 games. In his last 3 games healthy, Baker had 5 interceptions. In the last 7 games or 11 games after that, or whatever it was, Baker had one interception the entire rest of the way. So he has been better without OBJ. The first 2 games this year without OBJ, he completes 82% of his passes nearly. The next 2 with OBJ, he completes 53%. Again, not putting it on Odell, but I think it's more on Baker. And early on last year, maybe early on this year, I think he felt an obligation to try to get the ball to Odell. I first guessed this. I said it last year when Odell got hurt that Baker would be better because now he could just go through his natural progressions and hit the open man. I do think Baker did that last week against the Chargers, and they put up 42 points, but he only targeted OBJ 3 times, and the offense was fine. So Florio's right. I think they'll be fine. Jarvis Landry is back in maybe this week even, but certainly in a couple weeks. And then OBJ Nick will be even less of a target for Baker.
And one of those 3 targets, the only one he didn't catch was that key 4th down drop very early in the game that, given how the game ended, loomed very large. But Kevin Wildes, you know the comp I'm about to make.
Yes.
And we are getting ever and ever closer to Odell following the Randy Moss arc. And that is amazing. Goes to a lesser team. What the hell happened to you? Then goes to a GOAT-style quarterback. Amazing. Now, I know what the audience thinking, Nick, you're going to send him to the Chiefs. As much as I would like to, and Odell would love Kansas City, I must say, I'm not sure what the Chiefs need is an offensive player right now. However, another GOAT-level quarterback.
You think?
What about Aaron?
Mac Jones.
What about Aaron Rodgers?
Oh.
Send Odell to Green Bay. You send him out of the conference. I understand Aaron loves the receiving core this year, but he'd love it even more with Odell. That Packers team since week 1 has been great. This would give them an infusion. They have the draft capital to do it. Send Odell to Green Bay. I'm in on this. It has never fit with Baker and the Browns. And by the way, they scored 42, as Broussard mentioned, with Odell doing nothing. They're a running team, and they're going to take some shots. It's a misallocated asset, Wildes.
Look, it would be smart. And if Aaron Rodgers wanted Odell, all he would have to do is put out a tweet or say something to McAfee, and would put the Packers brass in a tough spot. Like, we're supposed to, listen to Aaron. We have Randall Cobb. He's playing great. Maybe we'll make this happen. I could see a few things, but I'll give you 3 things. 1, I would love to have him in New Orleans with Broussard's MVP, Jameis Winston, especially since Michael Thomas is still on the PUP list. I think that offense would come alive, but they don't have enough money. I get it. Obviously, every football story, I am trying to add, 100 players to the Patriots. That doesn't really work either. What about this one, though? What about the Giants? Why don't you come on home, Odell? We just saw Jamie Collins come back to New England, and he was great. Do we have a team that's struggling? You got Tony, you got Galladay, although he's a little bit banged up. I think it would be a nice little homecoming. And here's why.
You have to
he won't. hold on a second. Let me talk about my guy, Joe Judge.
Didn't Gettleman send him out?
Little too tightly wrapped, I would say. As much as I love him, a little too tightly wrapped. And just how Randy Moss went to New England and kind of loosened Belichick up a little bit. Hey, let's have a roller skating party. Dress up as a pirate. He's like, all right, you're right. Let's have the best offense of all time. I think Odell could loosen Joe Judge up just a hair and maybe make the Giants a winning squad. Give Daniel Jones another weapon. It's a great idea. Oh, thanks, Wells.
Odell's my guy, but we got to be honest about it. If you're trading for Odell, you need him to be happy that you've traded for him. And that means he has to have a good quarterback. And so, like, there are certain teams that need a receiver, but their quarterbacks, like Washington, makes a ton of sense. But he's not going to be happy. So Odell's like a Ferrari. It sounds great for everyone, but if you live on a snowy mountaintop, it ain't great. If your quarterback's Daniel Jones and you're run by Joe Judge, not going to happen. We need him to go somewhere where the quarterback's going to be awesome and they're going to be nice to him. So I just think we got to scratch off the Giants.
Green Bay,
Jets,
perfect.
Those teams, they got to go.
Green Bay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Green Bay. Thank you. Thanks,
maybe Rodgers would stay.
3 games.
Maybe Rodgers would stay.
Odell,
Maybe.
3 games, 9 catches, 124 yards, no touchdowns. Maybe it's OBJ. I don't know. Let's talk some Monday Night Football. Oh, what a night for Lamar Jackson. Wow, this game. Did he prove he can win with his arm in the process? Break it down next. First things first. Monday Night Football. Lights, camera, Jackson. You saw it there. Just an absolute gem last night if you stayed up and watched this whole thing. Ravens, Colts. What a performance from Lamar Jackson. Baltimore found themselves down 16 with 12 minutes to go. So they're down 16, 12 minutes to go. And Lamar legit just takes over. He got Baltimore in the end zone twice late to send the game to overtime. And then he won it in OT with a touchdown pass to Hollywood Brown. Just a monster night for Lamar. 442 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. And the most important stat of all, 100% confident they would win. Take a listen.
To be honest, no, it wasn't a doubt in my mind. Our team, we hit that peak that we needed, at the right time, second half. And, we just knew it's one play at a time. That's all we kept saying in the huddle, like one play at a time. Don't get too hyped over, we get 20 yards on this play, just take our time, and that's what we did.
You're not giving up. I mean, first of all, we've got Lamar Jackson, all right? And then next of all, we got a bunch of guys just like Lamar Jackson with heart and spirit and soul and persistence and all the other things. It's one of the greatest performances I've ever seen, and it wasn't easy. I mean, it wasn't like we came out just up and down the field. We had to overcome and fight through some things. He was under pressure. He created plays with his feet, threw the ball away when he had to throw it away. Then once we started going, when we were in that situation you're talking about, Jameson, we went into our fast mode, no huddle, 2-minute type mode. He just came alive, and all of our guys did. I mean, all the guys who made plays, and the offensive line. But it starts with Lamar, and he deserves the credit.
Well, Harbaugh's right. He does deserve the credit. 86% completed 86% of his passes, the highest completion percentage ever in a 400-yard passing game. Just remarkable. By the way, either Lamar was wearing a really cool shirt or those were the smallest football pads of all time. Nick, what did Lamar's 4 passing touchdown performance in the overtime win over the Colts show you, tell you, demonstrate last night?
All right, we'll go small picture to big picture. Small picture puts him right in the thick of the MVP race. Him, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert. They all have, and again, it's very early, they all have a very strong case with their teams playing as well as they are. Well, I listed the top 4 there. Yeah, I mean, we're going to keep listing names, Broussard. Be here all day. But Herbert, Kyler, Brady, and Lamar, those right now have been your top 4 guys. But bigger picture-wise, I do wonder, and I, a few years ago, started doing for good and for bad, the Lamar-Giannis comp. And then Cowherd stole it from me, and then Bill Simmons stole it from me. But that was my comp, and it's a damn good comp. And I'm going to remind the audience I was the first one on that corner. But I wonder if 2021 is going to be the year for both of these guys that they exorcise those demons. We know what Giannis did. Lamar, going into the playoff game last year that happened in 2021, had been 0-9 in his career when trailing by double digits. Since then, he has won a playoff game. He is 3-1 in games when trailing by double digits. He's beaten Patrick Mahomes, and now he just executed a flawless 19-point comeback where he had to do everything. Yeah, they got Duvernay back, and the receiving core is a little bit better, but come on, not a lot of weapons. Running back core is as injured as it was at the beginning of the season. So, Lamar, we're going to need you to throw and run and do everything, and in the second half, be perfect. And he could have crumbled. He had the fumble on the goal line that was returned for a touchdown. It then got brought back to the 25. They scored a touchdown anyway. That's a stomach punch moment if people didn't stay up to watch the game. Ravens are driving in to score. Lamar fumbles at the 1. All of a sudden, they're down 19 points. Doesn't matter. I think it was the finest passing performance of his career, Broussard. It's a game the Ravens had to have because their schedule, particularly at the end of the season, is just brutal. And so they have to stack these types of wins that they're supposed to have against bad teams like the Colts. And you look at Lamar and it says he's starting to answer all the questions. Can he do it with his arm accurately? Well, 86% on 400 yards passing in a comeback victory, 3-1 now in his last 4 when down 10 or more. It's great answers for all the questions people have had about him.
All right, first of all, Nick, did I hear you correctly? It sounds like you have dumped the Chiefs. Because you're saying now Baltimore this looks like it could be the year that he wins his championship just like Giannis did.
No.
Did I hear you correctly?
Well, sure. It's on the board. No. What I'm saying is the demons with Lamar
especially with the committee meeting
not
tonight.
just can he. But I just want to be clear. It was with the question with Lamar was less can he win a title, and it was more based around if they get down more than 7, are they dead? Are they a team that was the knock on them?
Okay.
Always was. If they get down big, you can't do it. It doesn't work in the playoffs. We'll see. Not everything's about the Chiefs, Broussard. I understand you have this weird Chiefs obsession. Not everything's about the Chiefs. Let's talk about Lamar Jackson right now. Let's please go ahead.
All right, here. The committee meeting tonight. I was just making sure. All right. Anyway,
that's correct.
Here's what I learned: never doubt Lamar Jackson. Never doubt him, because this guy's character, and I emphasize that, character and work ethic are so strong that he continues to improve each and every year and work on his weaknesses and eliminate them and prove the doubters wrong. And there are many doubters out there, not just in the media, not just in the old guard, you got to be 6'4" and stand in the pocket type guys. No. There are players that have doubted him as well. We talked about it before the season. The players' ranking of him went from number 1 last year to number 24 entering this season. 3 wide receivers, John Smith-Schuster, and others, Kenny Golladay, turned down the Ravens because they wanted to be in more of a passing offense where they could get more touches, have a better passing quarterback, presumably. And I'm included in that group of doubters, I have to be honest. First, I didn't think that Lamar could survive this long as a primarily running quarterback, or a lot of time running quarterback, and without getting hurt. He's obviously done that. He's in his 4th year. He's never been injured. And then I didn't think he would become a good enough passer to carry a team solely with his arm. And I was wrong on both accounts. And now he has progressed to the point, like, we have got to stop. It ends now. We've got to stop questioning whether or not he now can throw it well enough. He can. He may not be Pat Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, but he can clearly throw the football well enough and to be an elite quarterback. With his combination of his arm and the running, he is undoubtedly an elite quarterback. And I get it. He won the MVP, so some people might say, well, of course he's elite. No, a lot of people don't have him in the top 5. He's there. We wonder, could he throw the ball outside the lines to his receivers on deep routes and things like that? He hit Hollywood Brown for a beautiful one last night and has hit Hollywood a few times, and Hollywood dropped the ball. So Lamar Jackson, through his work ethic and belief in himself, has turned himself into a top-flight passer in this league. He is averaging 304 yards passing a game. That's 5th in the NFL. He's 5th in the NFL in yards per attempt, Wilds. And some might say, well, of course, last night boosted his average. He had 316 yards last week against Denver, which has a good defense. So Lamar Jackson, Nick's right. He is a threat, and they are a threat now to reach or win the Super Bowl, because Lamar is not just the elite runner anymore. He is now a top-notch passer.
Okay, I agreed with the whole album of what you said there, but there was one record scratch. I was like, hold on, what was that? Did you say Lamar is now a top 5 quarterback?
I think he's arguably in the top 5.
Arguably. Okay, close. Like upset alert. It's not. It's
I mean, we can
alert.
haggle over the Lamar, Justin Herbert, like he's in that discussion with these guys, because you can't hold it against him. Oh, he can't throw it. He can throw it.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, okay. I guess so. I feel like the top 5
with
is
the combination of running.
Okay, take the go out. Yo, Tom Brady, move him down to 7. Can't run. All right, Broussard, I'm glad that you showed up, and I don't mean to pick on you, because this was an emotional day for you, this game. Because we knew after the Broncos game, you said that you would be following this record. And unfortunately, the Lamar can throw the ball has some brutal consequences on the other side of the coin. And that is that the Ravens' record for 100-yard games ended last night. We saw them run up the yardage total against the Broncos, to everyone's dismay, except yours, Broussard. You said you would be following this record. You've been following it for years, since the Steelers had it. How are you responding today with the end of a historic record that literally no one cared or knew about till last week?
No, you're making light, but I was following this thing. I was checking it off every Sunday. There you go, 101, 122. Get it. And I was on the edge of my seat, not just because of the game, Wilds, but because of the record. They were at 86. 86. I was like, Lamar, run this one. And they would have got. The only silver lining for me is that 2 of my childhood heroes, Franco Harris, shout out Hall of Famer, and Rocky Blyer, still have a piece of the record for Pittsburgh, right? So it's a tie between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, very underrated fullback, Rocky Blyer. He was a good running back in the day. Yes, so I really get the best of both worlds. The Steelers are still alive.
All right, well, while you sit and compose yourself,
I love the music,
let me tell you,
by
next
the way.
week, this sets up for a great, well, of course, you have to set the tone. Lamar against Justin Herbert, week 6 next week. That's going to be a good one. Chargers, Ravens. We got to take a turn, talk some basketball. Yeah, it's going to be good. The Sixers got a pleasant surprise yesterday. Ben Simmons showed up. What comes next now that Simmons is in Philadelphia? We discuss next. First things first. Guess who decided to surprise the Philadelphia 76ers yesterday? Show up at the facility. All-star point guard Ben Simmons. Yep. Same Ben Simmons who appeared to be holding out of training camp. Yep. Same Ben Simmons who reportedly remains disgruntled and in desperate want of a trade. And the same Ben Simmons who hasn't spoken with the front office or the head coach, Doc Rivers, since late August. And was there a big welcome for him from the team? No, there wasn't. You want to know why? Because they had no idea he was even showing up. GM Elton Brand gets a text reportedly that says, hey, Ben is outside the building, as the Sixers preseason game tipped off last night. What is going on? Broussard, what do you make of this?
Well, look, it's nice for everyone. Everybody with an interest in the NBA that Ben Simmons is back in Philadelphia. But what does it mean? We don't know what Ben's motives are. Okay, we do know he still wants to be traded, or we're almost certain of that. So is he returning to play? Will he be in the lineup in opening night, opening week? Is that his motive? Or is he coming back just to get his money? And then maybe he'll have a back spasm or some type of injury that keeps him out? Or is he coming to act up? A la Jimmy Butler in Minnesota, a la James Harden in Houston, and dare I say Anthony Davis with the That's All Folks t-shirt in New Orleans? I don't know. Ben's personality, certainly he's not going to do what Jimmy Butler did. But my point is just, will he act up? Will he make things uncomfortable? You know what I'm saying? That type of stuff to get out of Philadelphia. I think the best case scenario for the Sixers is that he shows up, he's ready to play. He understands. I still want out, guys, but I increase my trade value. I increase the chances of me getting moved by going out here and playing well. All right, and I think that's the best case scenario. But let me throw this out, Nick, before you go. This is great.
Sure.
But the Sixers still got problems. Even if Ben is coming in like, I'm ready to ball, trade me or not, I'm just ready to ball. Let's go ahead and get it. The Sixers' goal is to win a championship. And they're not good enough with Ben Simmons as he was to win that championship. Okay, so if Ben's not coming back on the court, willing to at least take jump shots, forget making them, take them, then they're in the same old place. So it's kind of like Kyrie and the vaccination. Once he gets it, if he gets it, we'll all be overjoyed. Yes, but then you got to realize, okay, is he going on a sabbatical in a couple of weeks that he doesn't tell anybody about? Is he going to get injured? There are other issues with Kyrie, and it's the same thing with Ben Simmons.
Right, which is why it's best for both teams to trade those guys. Luckily for the Sixers, Ben Simmons has not said, if you trade me, I'll retire. In fact, he has said the opposite. Please trade me. Where do you want to go, Ben? Literally anywhere else. My list of teams is, can you just print out the full list of all NBA teams? Give me one of Nick Sharpie's. What are you doing? Scratching out the Sixers. Everywhere else, totally fine. So, Daryl Morey now has a blank canvas. But he needed to get Ben in-house in order to give himself the time to make the trade that needs to be made, which is not a trade surrounding around DeJounte Murray or even Pascal Siakam or those terrible Minnesota trades that were floated. Like, can we interest you in D'Angelo Russell? No. You can't. You got as much interest in D'Angelo Russell reunion as Nick Young does. It's not happening. No, thanks, but no thanks, buddy. And so the Sixers needed Ben there, though. And Ben came, and I don't think Ben is going to, as Broussard put it, act up a la Harden or Jimmy Butler. I don't know if it's totally fair to include Anthony Davis in that. He wore the T-shirt the one time. Aside from that, he was there. But because Jimmy Butler and Harden were in the position of, we want out, our teams don't want to trade us. Ben is in the position of, I want out, and my team has been trying to trade me for a year. Tried to trade me for Harden, was shopping me after the season. They just need to wait for the right trade. And so, Wilds, all the folks out there that took shots at my buddy Daryl Morey, probably jealous because his NFTs have, skyrocketed in value this offseason, saying, asking for too much. He wants all these pick swaps. Just trade it. Nah, man. Ben Simmons is the best, and I hate to talk about players as assets, but in trade terms, I think it's acceptable. The best asset Daryl Morey will be able to trade probably in his entire run with the Sixers. You must get prime value back from it. So what they hope is that Ben plays well, they look good early, and that Dame or Beal say, you know what, me plus Embiid probably could compete, especially what's going on with Brooklyn. Kyrie's playing once every third game as long as it's, a waxing moon. Okay, I'll deal with that. Oh, the Bucks, they really miss PJ Tucker. Who knows? So, I do think that this is a good day for the Sixers, unquestionably, no matter what Ben's mentality is right now. Am I going to give it my all? Am I going to not? He's back in the building, and now Daryl has time to make the trade.
Okay, so a few things are happening here. First of all, we're on the cusp of the most fascinating press conference we've ever seen in NBA history. And that is Ben Simmons showing up with Embiid and being like, sorry, I didn't return any of your texts, but I did save you the jet fuel when you guys were going to fly out. And I said, don't fly out. There's zero chance that I am coming back. I am not changing my mind. And next thing you know, he's there. But Broussard, I think that we are making an assumption that I don't think we should make. And that is that Ben Simmons is going to play well. Why do we think that at all? because he was working out in sweaty sweatpants on a half court with John Wall. He didn't play the Olympics. I didn't see him shoot that many threes. He had a handful of like those one-legged jumpers at a few open runs, but I didn't see him like Klay Thompson just putting in work from the three-point line. I also think his relationship with Joel Embiid, which was always is now and you've got 10 days to your first home game. What do we think that reception is going to be? Good? Happy? Welcome back, Ben? No, it's not. It's going to be terrible. So the idea that Ben is going to play and increase his stock, it could go the other way. He could play terribly with his chemistry on the court, with his relationship with Embiid, with an even more refusal to take shots. I think it's going to be really tough. So I do not think he's going to come back and play well, Broussard. Do you think he's going to play well?
I think that's a fair point. Obviously, one of the best things he does is defend, so he should be able to defend, especially once he gets his stamina back and all that. That's the one thing we know he'll do well. Passing, you got to get your timing down, but that will come. But you make an interesting point, Wilds, because Ben Simmons, the thing is, all of this is on Ben. All of this is fixable within Ben. If he just, like, that's what I didn't like about the whole trade demand in the first place, is Ben needs to just look in the mirror. Okay, maybe you're not the greatest fit with Joel Embiid, but that doesn't mean you can't play well. You just need to take a few jump shots or work on your jump shot more. Like, Ben can play well if he works at it, even if the environment is not conducive, not the best. And that's what I like about this situation, Nick. Like, this is on Ben.
Yeah, but let me defend Ben just for a moment. Ben has played well in his NBA career. He's been an all-NBA guy. He's been an all-star. I think he should have won Defensive Player of the Year last year. He finished second. He is an outstanding regular season player. What you're talking about is the jump he needs to make to be...
Outstanding's too much. He's not outstanding.
He was all-NBA
he's very
2
good.
years ago. He was the second best player
he's an
on the one
all-star
seed.
player.
He was, okay, all right, then we can
Nick,
Google the definition of outstanding and debate it. In the regular season, I think he's been outstanding. But obviously, he needs to improve come the postseason. Jenna, that improvement's going to come in a different uniform, if it's going to come. If it's going to come, the mirrors in Philadelphia that Broussard wants him to look himself in, the light shines funny off the eastern sky, I guess. That mirror is going to have to come elsewhere. But now you have time to make that trade, Jenna. It's not going to happen in Philly, but he can still help them in the short term.
But the news is Ben Simmons is back with the team. All right, coming up tomorrow, guys, Nick's delivering his NFL tiers entering week 6. It's at 8 a.m. Eastern. Nick, Wright, give us a little teaser, a little something.
Can't wait.
The Chiefs staying up top. What's happening? A little something.
I can't.
Give us.
What do you... I would never speak on behalf of the committee before the committee meets. The committee is meeting in 3 hours and 33 minutes.
Ooh.
I will keep you guys posted as I can, Broussard. The committee, Broussard, was not happy with your assumptions from yesterday. Well, you won't. Yeah.
There's going to be tension.
You're going to be like Ben Simmons.
I'm coming.
Texting. I'm outside.
Kale chips or Doritos?
Except no Elton Brand.
Everyone's going to be there.
No one's letting you in.
I'll bring kale.